channel. My name is Steve, and on this channel you will find programs for the Atari and the Commodore 64. A lot of tutorials with BASIC and assembly language both. You can kind of see my Atari in the background here. Okay, so I haven't really done an update in a while. I've been doing some Atari stuff, I know, but I want you to know I'm still working on that Commodore 64 game, believe it or not. But I'm running into some issues. I'm trying to learn some things which are called fine scrolling in the system. So I have a little program I wanted to kind of demonstrate here and show it to you using the WinVice here. When you're scrolling the screen, this one scrolls from down to the top. Let me run it and show it to you. What it's doing is it's keeping track of all the characters that are being scrolled at the same time. So when this thing is scrolling, it's keeping track of the bits in here. Each of these pixels are made up of bits, and it's actually 7 pixels high. So as long as or 7 bits high, I said pixels, I'm sorry, 7 bits high. So as long as it doesn't go out of that range from 0 to 7, you're good. But as soon as it goes out of there, unfortunately, that's when you get the jumpy, or what's called the coarse scrolling, which is common when you see a listing like this going down the screen. Well, this isn't a good example, but if you have one that's kind of scrolling, I'd have to put more in this program to show you, but kind of see how it's scrolling like that. That's coarse scrolling because it's not very fine scrolling. So that's the whole idea of this little program. This is not my own program. This is just I got it out of this book, Map in Commodore 64. I kind of moved my camera angle here too a little bit to give a different viewpoint. So what I do want to show you is what I'm doing in the meantime here, what I've been working on, and I'll kind of show you the game as it is right now, which I haven't really done a whole lot to it because like I said, I'm trying to get fine scrolling underway. So this is going to be kind of an overall update kind of video to just kind of catch you guys up to date with what I'm doing at this point. So let me get attach this disk image first. For those who don't know, WinVice, when you want to load up Turbo Assembler, which is where I'm doing it all at, you need to go here to the TAS 5-6 TSM, and you can get that on my website, and you attach it. Now once you attached it, it's attached here where you can actually see the listing or directory like this. If you get an error and it says it's not found, that means it's not attached, so you need to go back up here and make sure that you're attaching the appropriate image. It'll take a second here. Okay, so what you do in Turbo Assembler, people have asked me before, how do you start this thing? All you need to do, once you have it up like that, and let me just show you the listing again so those guys can see it. You're looking for the one that says TAS, T-A-S-M, S-MON. So once you have that listing on the screen here, let me fix the display here. You want to go load star, or asterisk for those old timers, 8,1, and wait for it to load. It'll take a second here for it to load in memory. Camera's blanking out again. One of these days I'm going to get a better camera. This one, it grabs too much focus and it doesn't really focus very quickly, so it's going to take a while for this thing to load. It does take a while. And when you type in list, you'll just see the same thing. You're like, what? It's not there. Actually, what you've done is you've just loaded it into memory here at 36864. Oh, peek in there to show it to you. 36864. And right there, that's basically a sign that that's a jump. So if you're curious, you can go 36864. This is for those assembly fanatics. Peek 36866. And then you just basically take the next 2 bytes. A little lesson here for you guys. 149, multiply it by 256. And that's the starting location right there where Turbo Assembler is jumping to at the first program. 120 is a set interrupt. So basically, 36864 will take you into the assembler if I type it in right. Okay, so you can get backward and forward by using that 36864. So let me load up the program now that I have here. I've been working on a few different things. I'm going to show you a few different things in this video. Hopefully if I can recall them, make a note to self real quick here, because often I say, I'm going to show you something and I forget it. Get carried away with other stuff. So I wanted to show you scrolling, the raster, and finally, if we don't run out of time, I'll show you the game to date. Okay, so let's go in here and look for, these are the rasters. I'm going to show you those secondly here, but I wanted to first, since we were on the scrolling, show you the scrolling demo I've been working on here. And it's not my own. I found it on the internet when I was researching here. Let me show you where I got it actually here. This is where all my favorite Commodore 64 sites are stored. So it's right... It's up here somewhere. It's this one right here. It's Codebase. It's called Four-Way Scroller. And what you basically do is, let me pull up a page here. Show it to you. I'm taking it apart line by line so I can figure out how it works. Because when I first tried to type it in, I ran into a big problem. It didn't fit in the assembler's memory. And what that means is when you try to load it in here, which I'll show you here in a minute. Let me just load it up here. It's called Scroll Test 3 there. I attach it there. Oh, you have to hit the... for those who don't know, I'll show you this one. I've showed this before, but I'll show it again anyway before we go into that. You want to load something into memory. More often, you can actually clear it first. And you'll see this little... let's see if we can get there. Right there it says cold start. And how I did that is you hit this key right here on your keyboard. I forgot what the camera was right there. See that key right there on the end there? It's right below the escape key. You want to hit that key right there. And then once you hit that right away, you press a letter. In this case, I press C for declare, like this. And then a cold start, which means it'll erase everything in your memory for your assembler. You want to do that first because when you're going to load with the E, which is using the command key. Remember that key in the corner? It's actually known as the command key. Command, and then you press E. It'll say enter file. That means it's going to be looking for the program name here. And what it does is it appends everything in memory here. So if you already have a program here and you don't clear memory, it's going to add it on top of the other one. And you don't want that because you're going to end up with duplicate labels and all kinds of junk in your source code that you don't need. This one will take a while to load. While it's loading here, I'm going to jump over and show you the window here for a second, the website. This is the program that I found online at Codebase 64. It's called Four-Way Scroll. And the author has even submitted it. We're at the point where he's allowing anybody to use the code. There's actually a website back here somewhere. I had to go back there and show it to you, but he says it's free to use for people. So this program is actually a fine scroller. But it's very massive. I mean, this is only one part of it here. And then what you have to do is you have to go back here. I just get it this way. I just type in scroller, or scroll, I think. And it's right here. So you type in part 2, or click on part 2. This will take a while to load this one. And my browser always crashes when it tries to load it. Probably a dumb bot or something, I don't know, script. And then this is part 2 of it, and this is the rest of it. This one's even longer than the first one. It's very, very long. So I, believe it or not, I've typed in this whole entire program, at least portions of it, to the point where I could get it working. But the only thing is I don't have the scrolling working, but I wanted to demonstrate that's my goal here. I'm trying to get it running to the point where I can start learning fine scrolling, but I still have to keep adding the parts that work. So I'm taking it line, routine by routine and kind of adding the new sections in, like I didn't put print number in there. This is kind of what I do have to show you here, so I don't have to ramble here so much. So if you want to see what it does when it first loads, it always loads to the bottom of the editor. Just press F2, it'll take you to the top, and you press F7, and you can kind of scroll down through it, the code, and you can kind of see it here. What I typed in and all that. If I hold it down here, it'll just jump all the way down through the whole program. So it's not, mine's not very long. It's only 823 lines, so it's obviously not as long as this one. But I took apart the pieces I needed to try to get things moving as quickly as I can. And you want to scroll up, you just press F1, and that'll allow it to scroll up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. Now, when you want to run it, you just press F4. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me. There it is. That's as far as I got last night with it. Let me see if the joystick's hooked up here. I need to plug the joystick in. And what I did is I added my own controls for the joystick to kind of make sure that the code is going to the appropriate places and it's not crashing anywhere. So if I move the joystick, I programmed in color changes to it, so I know that I'm utilizing my own little calls into the program. So when I go into those routines, that they're actually working. So it's basically saying right now, anything I put inside the joystick, moving it left, up, right, or down here, is working. So basically that's what's going on here. And I haven't initiated the scroll yet, so I don't have the scrolling code working. I'm taking it line by line, but I hope to get it working hopefully tonight. And then eventually I want to add this into the game where it implements scrolling inside of basic, like fine scrolling. Hopefully we'll get that far, but I'll show you what I did here. Now to get out of this, there's no other way to get out, so you have to kind of do where's it at here? A warm reset. Oh, it's over here. I'm thinking of the Atari. So you do a reset and you hit soft. Now if you hit hard, it'll erase everything in memory, so just do soft. And that'll kind of jump back out, and then you can kind of sys back into it. Uh-oh. Well, actually, this one, I forgot. There's an error when I tried system back into it, so I'm still working on why there's a crash going on. Although you saw that it was still accepting the joystick position, so I do have to load Turbo Assembler again. Unfortunately, it seems to erased it somehow. That'll happen, and it's real common in assembly language that your code can easily overwrite sections and stop working like that. So there's tests you can do that kind of, and I want to show that to you also, tests you can do inside of your code to kind of figure out where it might be crashing at and stuff like that. Of course, it's going to take me a second to get back over here, so bear with me on that. It'll take a second here. I hate these pauses in videos, but nothing you can really do. Okay, System 36864, and we're back in. Notice I didn't have to reload the code. It automatically goes right to the starting address of where I put in the code in memory. So that's what's really cool, but unfortunately you have to load back in Turbo Assembler. This program crashes into Turbo Assembler somewhere still, so I'm kind of figuring that out. But let me show you what's going on here, and I'll system down here, or jump down the code here a little bit and show you to where the joystick starts at. It's right here. See where it says joystick down here? Okay, so what I did here is, yeah, it's right down here. Inside of each joystick routine, this right here handles the main joystick, right? What's up here? This is actually the joystick handler for 56320, I believe it is. And this checks for the up position. If up is reached, that's what this means. Branch is not equal. It's going to check for the up direction. That means it's going to move to the up direction. So basically it's saying it found if it's not idling, if you're not leaving the joystick in the center, then something's going on. So basically you're pressing up. So at that point it just kind of moves through the code and checks each individual position. So right here it's going to check the up position, and as long as it's not checking for the up position, or excuse me, the down position, which is what this one does, compare 7E, then it's going to go through the up code here. So I put this in here, and this line right here is what changes the background color. You saw me changing the background color earlier for that one. And then it's down does the same thing. It just jumps down here to the down code. If it's not checking here, if it's not the down key, or if it's not the up key, it goes to the down key. And if it's not the down key, it goes to the left. And if it's not the left, it goes to the right. So basically that's how it's just jumping around. And each time in here, you see the load cumulator 53281, I changed the background color there to yellow. And here I changed it to another color for 14, whatever color that is. And here, where's that? Here I changed it for 3, which I think is the green. And somewhere in here I thought I had a red, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I took it out. But that's what's going on, and that's how you can test your code when you want to see if, what I like to do is when I want to see something's working and it's not my own code, I'll change colors inside of it so I can kind of figure out where things are happening at. Because unless you can print numbers to the screen or print characters to the screen, there's not a really whole lot to figure out what's going on. So I usually use the old colors to kind of figure out when I'm testing stuff. And what I was talking about earlier is when you want to figure out if a program's crashing, because this one was crashing. We noticed earlier it crashed in a turbo assembler here. So what you want to do is you want to get to the main part, or what's called the meat of the program, the main loop here. And usually it starts at the top here. You can kind of go down through it here. As I'm going down through here, I see it's got a high and a low byte. It's picking up the screen addressing and stuff like that. Right here, you want to always look for these JSR routines. And what you want to do, if you look down here, you want to put a little semicolon in front of it like that, and that will turn it off. So if you turn off all the appropriate jumps and the JSRs in your program, usually you can get that section and figure out what that section might be doing. So that's an old trick I used to use back in the days. I mean, some people like to use, BRK to check their statuses and stuff like that. But I like to do it that way to kind of figure out what this routine and try to figure out which one may be crashing. So I'll turn them all off first. I'll turn off like that one. Let's just say we would turn off this one. Might turn off this one, but I already know what that one does. That one's not anything to do with going to a routine. That's just basically clearing the screen. I think that's the clear screen one. And up here, you'll look for any more JSRs, because JSRs jump the subroutine. It means it's going to another part in the code, and something's going on at that point. Now, you could still kind of trace it and go through your code and figure out where that part is happening at, too, by looking up where that routine is. For example, setup here, we would go down here. I don't know how to do the searches, so I just kind of scroll down and figure out, see where setup is. I know it's way down here somewhere. I just have kind of got used to it right here. So it's right here. So here's where the setup routine begins here. This is actually keeping track of, yeah, that's a scroll, I believe. So D011, let me look that up. I'm not real good with hex codes. I usually have to look them up. It's a 53265, which is the up and down scroll. So this is actually implementing the scroll and masking the bit positions to figure out, which bits we need to scroll and which ones we don't want to scroll, basically. So that's what that's doing. So I don't see anything in here that looks that it's like it's going to crash anything. Just from looking at it from experience, I can tell that when you hit RTS, it'll go back to that jump, the subroutine, and kind of continue back off. So it looks like this code is safe to leave open. So we'll go basically back to the top here and F7 back down into where we were. Oh, it went too far. Let me just drop down a few here. That's right down here where I turned off the setup. So basically you would just turn it back on. Just take it back off like that. Now it's activated and it'll go to this subroutine because it's not crashing that subroutine. Now I know this one, we won't need it to do it to this one. If you look this one up in your book, it actually is basically a return from the, what's that called, the interrupt. It's just returning from the interrupt because this program is using an interrupt to keep track of the fine scrolling. If you don't use an interrupt inside of your fine scrolling, you don't get a really nice looking scroll. It'd be kind of shaky and jittery and stuff like that. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to look at the next one here. Now you notice I have this one still off because I do have an issue with this one. But let's go down and look for the setup IRQ here and just kind of jump down through code again here. Now I promise I'm not going to spend the whole video showing this to you because it might be boring for some people. Like, well, I'm not really showing you anything that's useful. Yeah, I'm just kind of teaching you some tips, basically, so to speak. So this one is an interrupt. This is where it first sets the interrupt. That's what SCI means, set the interrupt. And this is storing the appropriate, I think this turns the basic off or something here. And this is this right here is storing what's called the vertical blank interrupt and the high and the low byte. So it looks down here for V blank, and this is where it activates the routine from that interrupt, basically. And it stores the X register here too, and the Y register and all that stuff that's necessary. And you always want to clear the interrupt when you're done with it. If you don't, you can crash it very easily. So think of an interrupt as a process running in the background, and it's not affecting anything. Like when you press a key on the keyboard, any keyboard basically, an interrupt is being responded and nothing else is going on. As you press the keys, it's not slowing down the processor or anything like that. Maybe moving your joystick, that could be another interrupt. There's a lot of different interrupts that were in Commodore and Atari computers back in the days. So that's basically what's going on there. And like I said, once you have these high in the bits, this is where all the fun happens. Inside of this vertical blank interrupt, you can put anything you want inside of here. Just don't make it too super long inside of like the main routine here. And you can actually start doing your own stuff. Like in some of my old days, I would actually move sprites on the screen in the background without affecting your own movement and stuff like that. Now in this example, obviously they're using it for scrolling. So okay, so this is just basically some of the basics of what I'm learning about this program. I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on it, so I'm not going to go down and say, oh, I can show you everything in it. I don't know. I'm still learning it. But I do have kind of a good idea of what's going on and what will get, help me achieve my goals and figuring out the scrolling part. And what I do know is I keep track of the width and the height right here. So I can, once I get the scrolling working, I can go in here and I can alter these values, and I can keep track of the width and the height of the scroll. And some other things down here. I don't know what hidden screen is yet for. These right here are keeping track. I think these are the screen positions. Now the author in here has the code commented very heavily, so it's easy to kind of read through here and kind of figure out what's going on just by reading his comments. But I didn't add all the comments because it takes too long to type everything in. So I kind of stick those in last or so. But that's what's going on with that part. That's basically storing your high and low bytes for the screen memory addressing and stuff like that. And I was looking for the draw routine. It's down here somewhere, I think. Yeah, right here, draw screen. This is the part I got that you saw it earlier when it showed and it filled the entire screen. This is where it draws everything in. Now it's also reading in map address, which is actually a set of bytes. It's actually farther down in the code here. I can show you if I go to the bottom here. Remember how to get to the bottom. That's the top. I think it's F8. F8 takes you to the bottom. Right here. So this is where the map address is coming from. And basically it reads the bytes in here to position things on the screen. And if I go in and I change something in here, you'll probably see something on the screen change. Had to change it to make it look pretty effective. But if I just change like, we'll just change a few of them, maybe a 9, 8, 1. I'll try to stick a couple of them side by side here. Now it's going to crash again when I run it. Of course, you're not going to be able to see everything. But if you paid attention to the last one and this one, you'll see that it should change the screen data here. So let me just run it. I know I got to reload Turbo Assembler again, but oh well. Until we can figure out that problem. Let me just run it and kind of see what happens here. So F4 to run. Okay, actually, no, it didn't. So it's not actually affecting those byte locations. I was hoping to be able to see something change here, but it actually didn't change anything. It's just still responding to the movement and all that. Once I get that working, which I believe these are just picking up memory somewhere and storing it out of memory, but once I get that working, then I can probably get the fine scrolling underway. So I'm going to exit out of this one for now, so I don't make this one too long. Keep forgetting you gotta go to reset, and I'm just gonna have to hard it anyway because it jumps out the program. Now if I try to go back to System36864, it won't let you do anything because Turbo Assembler is gone, so you need to put it back in memory again. But the program forces us to do this anyway, so might as well do it anyway. So load it back in memory, and now we'll sit here and wait again and twiddle our thumbs. Meantime, I'll show you the code over here. So you can go to the website here and you can check it all out yourself if you're really heavily into assembly like I am. He did an amazing job on this. The only problem is, some of you might be asking, well, if the code's here, then you should be able to download it somewhere. Yes and no. Yes, you can download the code, and I think it's right here somewhere. It's actually at his website somewhere. Let's see. He's got a bunch of examples down here too. A lot of good assembly examples, but I can figure out where it is. This is part 1. This is part 2. I don't know where it is. He has a download here somewhere. I lost where his page is, but if you go to his website, though, you can download it, but the only problem is it only works for the 64 ASM assembler, which is not what we're using here. We're using Turbo Assembler. Now, I did try to download 64 ASM, but it's an old assembler, and it doesn't have a GUI interface, so I don't want to learn how to use it. So, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to show you the raster routines that I was talking about secondly. So, they're right here. I'll show you each one of them. We'll load them in. Okay, here's the first one. I forget what this one does. This one might not work, but we'll find out. Let's see. So F4 to run it. Oh, actually, this one does not work. Okay, so this is the one I couldn't get to work, so we'll start. We can jump out of here and go safely back to Turbo Assembler because it doesn't reset the program. Okay, so let's clear out the memory. Okay, loading the new one. Oops, I typed in too much after it. Seems to be repeating letters when you type them. This one's a little bit longer. I think this is the one with the scroll bars, but I'm not sure. Let me see. Can't really tell you. Let me run it and see. Oh, this is one that actually I don't think I could get working either. A couple of these were not working. Oops. I think 3 and up above were the ones I did get working. So let's clear this one out. I had those in there for test purposes. So I was trying to get those to work. One of these produces some pretty nice looking scroll bars. I just don't remember which one it is. Let's try this one. See what this one is. Yeah, this one's got like a little flashing screen basically. But that's not the one I wanted to show you. But see, if you stop it, you can kind of see the scroll bars there. And basically, it's just controlling the raster line, and it's changing the horizontal beam right there. And at that point, you can start changing colors inside of the program. But I think raster 4 is a good one. A lot of these I found on the internet. I found them in books. All kinds of stuff. Let's see what this one does. This is it. This is, you see this right here. These are the codes that change the bars, which I'll show you here in just a minute. This one's pretty short and pretty cool looking. See, it actually draws the color bars, and it's changing these horizontal lines as you're. Keep in mind when your computer is scanning this television or anything, it's called a horizontal beam. It goes from here, it scans all the way here, it turns off, and it turns on when it gets back over here, and it keeps drawing these lines across the screen. Now, when these lines are drawn across the screen here, you can stop the interruption with the raster interrupt, and you can alter those colors as it's scanning down the screen. I mean, that's how fast assembly is. It can actually stop the vertical blank in its tracks and do stuff with it. And that's how you see back in the days all those fancy colors and those demos and that kind of flashy stuff, FLI animation and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But we can alter this blue if you wanted to, and I can change it to something else just by changing that color map. So let's go in and do that. CD6 is on the bottom are the same as the ones up here, so that's changing the color bars there. So we could change this to something else. I'm not real good at reading hex, but I know FF is 255, so we'll kind of play with FF here a little bit. And it'll change a few lines down basically there. Maybe we'll change the last ones. And you should see some yellow lines in here somewhere. I'm going to change a few more so you can make sure you see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's reassemble it. And actually they're not yellow, but you noticed here there was blue here earlier, now it's like a gray. So it's basically taking that line and storing what you just put in there was 255, which apparently is a gray. So you can do all kinds of cool things with this. You could change the size of it too. I think that's done in this one right here. Let's see, it's load X shredders for 0, the colors X, compare Y. It's actually comparing the raster line here, so it's actually keeping track of the Y. So yes, it would be in here, so. Let's see, compare Y. Maybe if I leave it at 0, that might do something. Let's try that first. There you go, kind of moved it to the top there. So basically it's starting here at the top and kind of moving down from there. Look, it looks like a little picture or something. That's kind of cool looking, ain't it? Raster bars are really fun once you learn how to start using them. I'm going to try to implement them in my game, maybe make like a rainbow sky or something like that. Rainbow sky's got like a myriad of colors in it, so kind of cool stuff. So let's do something like 50 or something. And I'll show you some other stuff you can do with it too. Okay, so that one kind of took off the bottom and kind of left it up here, so it's actually going down to 50 lines and it's stopping right there. Now another thing you can do is you can interrupt the clock cycles of the colors and kind of move the colors around. And you do that with something called a no-op. I think it stands for no operations, NOP. Something like that. And you just assemble it. And actually this one did not change it. Let's see why here. Maybe I stuck it in the wrong place here. Let's see, compare Y, store it. I think I have to put it down here, not there. Because here's where it's just reading the colors, and this would have changed something to do with the colors. But this down here controls the scan beam, so I think it's down in here where you have to change it, if I recall. Oops, turned that into a label. We don't want a label. Okay, so let's try that. We're only going down 50 lines here, so maybe I have to bring it farther down. Let me put it back to like a larger number again or something. Remember this line, this load the Y register is just going from 0 down to however far down it's going down the screen there. So 50, you put something like 200. Apparently the no-ops aren't working right here. I don't know why yet. There's just a compare X in here. I could change it with the X, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to try to do some math on it this time and try to change the colors with the math or something. Oops. Man, this thing is moving so fast I can't control it. So we do something like, oh shucks, I didn't want to do that. ASL A. Left shift right for division. Let's see if that changes anything. There, kind of moved it at the bottom, and look at this weird squiggly line there. That is really strange. It's like it's controlling, I don't know, like it's calculating the bits or something in there. That's really strange, isn't it? But you saw it move this time at least. Okay, so let's go back. Have some more fun with this. I could play with these things all day. The rasters are fun when you really get the hang of them. We'll do some more division. LSR is left shift right, so this will divide by 2. This multiplies by 2 here. This will divide the number by 2 and divide it by 2 again to kind of get different things with it. And it changed the colors again. This because it's changing it. Divide them by 4 basically. We still got that weird squiggly thing going on down there. As I said, they're really fun once you get the hang of them. I'll put this on the my website later so you guys can kind of play with it and kind of come up with your own stuff. Now, you've seen I was changing the border color, and it also changes the background color. So it basically moves that scan bar all the way across the screen here. I think this is the location. Let me double check it here real quick. It's 53280. That's the border color. $53,280 is D020. So it's this one right here. This right here stands for 53281. And then the border is D019, which is down here, I think, somewhere. Or did we change the border? Maybe we need to change the border. What's this D011, I think? I don't know what that is. Curious. It's location 53265. It's the same one. It keeps track of the vertical scrolling, but it also keeps track of the vertical beam going down the screen there. So, okay. So we got that location. Let me see if I can stick the border in there somewhere. I thought it was in here, but I didn't see it. I think we have to stick it down here. So I'm gonna change it down here and change alternating colors with it. That's what I wanted to do. We'll put it right here. We don't need it up here then. Let's try that. There it goes. Now it changed the background color here. And it also is affecting the border color. So notice the borders are gone too. Did you notice that? Isn't that really strange? All the borders have disappeared. There's a lot of things you can do with rasters. If you ever seen colors going down the screen and like a sprite having different colors, that can be done with a raster. If you ever seen more than one sprite on the screen and you've seen like up to 100 of them, I don't know how many you can put on this Commodore 64, but you can put a lot of them on there. That's done with a raster. It's basically keeping track of each position and setting an interrupt on their positions, which duplicates their positions. I've seen it done in an old video before on the Atari, so I was trying to see if there's anything else I could show you here. You could even set rasters to sound and change sound quality, believe it or not. It's really amazing what you can really do with it when you get the hang of it. Maybe I'll come up with some programs later like that to show to you, but you could, there's just so many things you can do with it. Let's see if, I'm curious to see what happens if I change the scrolling register here. So actually I want to put it down here. Maybe do an ASL or something down here. We could even do a rotate. Let's just rotate it, the bits. And then we're going to store it in D016, which is 53270, which keeps track of the horizontal scrolling. So I'm just curious to see what will happen. Probably nothing, but we'll see. Can't really tell what really happened. I noticed the bars turned off though. They're not, moving anymore. Hopefully you're not too bored with this, but there's a lot of things you'll want to learn about rasters when you get really good at them. You pop a sprite on the screen and you can do some pretty cool stuff with it. Now if I could find a program in here that loads a sprite in, I could probably show it to you, but I don't have one per se in memory anywhere I could show you. I might even have to recreate one if we don't have one created already. So let's just go up here inside the interrupt. This is where it does all the initialization and set up an error for the sprite here. We'll turn it on. I'll just use the decimal values here. 53269 activates the sprite. This is going to control the position on the sprite on the screen. 53248, that's the horizontal. And then we'll store it kind of similar to the vertical. And we need to store it also. We need to store the sprite data pointer so you can see it. So I know 192 always has something in it usually. 2040. So let's see if there's anything else I need left in here. I might have to turn the colors on because you probably won't see it. I don't have them all memorized here, so I'm kind of looking up the colors here. It's 53 to 80 something. I know that much. See, sprite color 1 is 53 to 87, so we'll just store a color in here for 53 to 87. Hopefully we can get the sprite to appear. I don't see it yet. There might not be a sprite in this position. Let's try 13. That's the sprite data pointer. And make sure I got all the right values, because if you're missing something, the sprite won't show up. So we've enabled the sprite. We've positioned it. We've turned it on. I don't know what else we could really do. We've colored it. Let me just stick a regular color in for it so you can kind of see it there. So we got sprite 0, sprite 0, sprite 0, sprite 0. Okay, so why isn't it showing up? I guess you do have to kind of draw it in memory for it to be shown. We could set, I don't know why I keep going up there. We could set an area here for just to position it. All right, 36. Just to show it up on the screen and to draw like data for it or something. I could just do that with a simple register here. I'll do it up here somewhere. Let's see. I want to do it right before these other ones for anything crashes it or anything. So we just basically load the cumulative X register 0, and we're going to store it. We'll make this like a loop right here. And then we're going to load the accumulator with the value for like, turn on some bits for the sprite. And we're going to store them into 832, comma X. Actually, so there's 62 bytes in the sprite there, so that's how many we need. Increment, X register. Actually, I'm going to decrement X register, and I just set this to... Actually, load the X register, or not load the accumulator, I meant to say load X register 0, load accumulator 62, store at 832, decrement the X register, that's right, branch is not equal, go back to loop. Hopefully that will draw our sprite. This is supposed to draw the 16 bits for the sprite. And this is where the data, the sprite data, is stored. So let's see if that works. Yeah, it seemed to have crashed out here. Accumulator 62, story 32, comma Y. Might not be able to stick a loop inside of a raster like that. Might have to do it outside the program here. I should have just done it outside the program. Now I gotta type all this in again because I don't know how to move stuff. It's because the X and the Y registers are already being used by the raster routine, so we probably can't do that here. See right here, they're being used by the raster routine, so we could just stick it up here before the interrupt. Hopefully this will work properly. Oops. This thing is so sensitive on its typing. Now that's outside the interrupt, so that should hopefully work and not crash the program, because it's not going to use the X register, only inside of the interrupt routine. When it does the set interrupt, it's basically going to only look in this area between the, right here, the SEI and all this code right here. It's going to look inside of there. Let's try that. I got an error in it. Okay, so that's what I'm not seeing here. What's the error message? I don't know how to stop this to see. So when you hit F4, can't see what the freaking error is. Branch is equal to main. Maybe main got erased or something. Let's see. Oh, I erased the main loop. No wonder, didn't I? I think it was right there. Main is right there. So it didn't have a main loop unless it was up here somewhere. Shucks, I forgot where everything was here. Okay, so we also got 2 loops down in here, so we can't have a identical copy of the value. So I'm just going to change this one to like count or something. Just go to count. Now we don't have any duplicate labels. And it seems to be doing nothing. Okay, let's check this again. Load X register 0, 32, store it in 832, go back here and keep storing the bits in until it's, not increment, I meant to decrement this, until it's done. Load in the colors, compare them. All that should be fine. Unless the main was actually up here. Maybe it was up here. Yeah, I saw it for a second there, so it's probably interfering with the program again somehow. Slowing down my processor, I noticed that. So let me comment out these lines and see if these lines are causing the issue. And you can always comment out lines when you think something may be affecting it. Unless I just screwed up the whole program. I think I screwed it up somehow here. Well, since you saw that part of the program, I'm just going to go ahead and reload it. I don't remember what I changed down in here. This is branch equal main. You think it would probably go back up here somewhere and be inside the loop here. I'll stick it here one more time and then I'm just going to reload it. Nope, still crashing it. So it's locking up the program somewhere before it gets to the raster. So I'm just going to reload this, clear this out. And was it raster 4, I believe? No, it was raster 3, wasn't it? Let me see if this is it. Nope, it was raster 4. This is the one right before it. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is go up here, and we're going to do that sprite loading in up here at the top. We already got the loop, so we use the counter, put the bits in the sprite, store it. Okay, we got that. And then we're going to load, turn the sprite on. I'm just going to turn on all of them, maybe that'll work. Goodness sake, I don't like when it repeats everything. Okay, so 53, make sure I got all the right values. 13, 2040, position the sprite on the screen somewhere. Store it, store it. Hopefully this time it'll show up. I don't see it anywhere. Trying to figure out need a sprite routine or something here so I can see what's going on. Just going to look up one in the book here. I know there's one in here. Sure I'm not missing anything here. V plus 21, V plus 39. What is V plus 21? Do some quick math here. So 53,248 plus 21, that's 53,269. 53,248 plus 39. 53,287, that's the color. I've got everything I need to position and show the sprite. Why isn't it not showing up? 2040, 13. I got everything in there correctly. Let me just turn on the color here just to make sure it's there. Okay, so this is the color of the sprite, the horizontal, vertical position, the sprite data pointer, and enabled sprite. Let's set this to 1. You enable 1, you just use the 1. So I don't see anything else that would be preventing this thing from showing up. I can put all 255 bytes in it so we see it. Make sure it's down far enough. Now 170 is closer to that raster line, and this is sort of like in the center, like that. I don't know where our sprite is. That's all the code I got from this book right here. If you want to see that right there, this is where I'm getting it from. Right there's that little program right there. And it's got everything gets covered that I got in this program. See the 832, the 2040, the 53,248, the horizontal, the vertical, the 21 is the enable, and the 39 is the color. And the V plus 1 is the vertical. So I got everything in there, but for some reason it's still not showing up. So I'm going to do a little test here. I'm just going to jump out before we get to the interrupt, so it won't do anything. It should just run the code. And I don't see it on the screen. It should be somewhere on the screen here, but I don't see it anywhere. Let's see, 81,6. 53,249, 120. There it is. I don't know what I just did to make it show up here, but let's see, 6, 100, 120. Let's make a quick note of these values here. So I got the horizontal at 100. I got the vertical at 120. I probably just need to turn on the 53,281. It might be why we're not seeing it. It might be blanking out the screen or something. And 2040, I put it at 13. And enabled it with 1. Okay, so I got everything I need here. I'm just going to take this 53,281 and remove that and see if that will make it show up here. So it was there, we just weren't seeing it. Okay, go back and double check. I got the 1 on that. Good on that. 13, we're good on that. 120 was the vertical. Horizontal was a 100. And we need to turn off the 53,281, which is, I think, this one right here. D021 is the background color. It's not even in here anywhere. So I'm just going to turn on that. We're going to erase this line here and go back to the interrupt here again. I'm going to turn on the background color there with the 6. Let's see if we can get it to appear this time. Notice the background's always shown in black. That's probably why we're not seeing anything, even though the sprite is white. Some of you might be saying, well, if the background's white and the sprite is white, then where is it? It's a mystery. So 7. So we got to get the background so it doesn't black out the screen. So earlier I changed, so what this stuff's down here doing, 51. I think we want to expand it. That's 53,265. That's why we're not going to see it. I could probably move it down here so you might be able to see it. If it's still in black, that might be why you're not seeing it. You saw it earlier though. So I'm going to go back here. You'll see it every time. Oh, we thought we were going to see it. What did we miss? 53, 281, 100. So I had this at 100. I had this at 120. 53, 287 at 7. I believe it was 192. No? Strangely enough, our sprite seems to not showing up now. Darn it, I really wanted to show you this, because you can do some pretty darn cool things with the sprite. This video is getting kind of long though. Let's see. Double check my work here. I activated it. We turned on the sprite data pointer. Oh, 13 didn't even turn it on. 192 didn't turn it on either. Maybe it's 12. I think it's 12 we need. So let's go back in and change that to 12. Maybe that'll do it. Like I think it was a freaking screen. The sprite data pointer to 12. I just saw it for a second there and it disappeared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it inside of the lines here, see if we can make it show up that way too. So we're going to set down here a counter to move it. Hopefully this will work here. And I'll just say this for MX for like the movement. And just set it to a byte number so we can change it. And we're going to stick it inside the loop here where it was moving everything, which was down here. Increment MX, actually MY is what I want, not MX. Y is for vertical, X is for horizontal. And we're going to store that in 53,249. Try to get it to move down the screen, see if that is possible here. Unless that's a sprite down there. So I have it moving down the screen like this now. But I don't see it anywhere. Oh, this went back to 12. Why did that go back to 12? Still not moving. I don't see it. I guess I'll have to do another video. I was hoping to be able to devote this one to this. I'll do some other funny stuff with here too. See if I can get it to flash on the screen here. So I'm going to go down inside of here. And as we're incrementing X, might need to load the MY2, make it show up. We're going to store it in the sprite data pointer as it's changing it down. Actually, no, I'll change it and put this in the X position because I think the X is always changing anyway. Try to force that thing to the screen somehow. Let's get this flash line at the bottom. That's really strange. We're going to have to can this one. I mean, you saw some of the other things you can do with it. When I get this working, maybe later I'll show it to you. But what I was trying to do is move the sprite down the screen or position it somewhere and then to kind of split it apart and try to split it into more than one sprite. Using one sprite, you could split it into as many pieces as you needed to, as many as it'll let it. Many bits there are. Basically, if you're really good, you can split it into 62 bits. I believe I've seen that done before. But unfortunately, I don't know. So one of these other routines or something is throwing it off here. I'll play with it a little bit. Maybe I'll put a video up there later on it. But it still baffles me right now as to why it isn't working, because I'm incrementing my. Here I'm storing it into the movement of the vertical, and here I'm storing it into the 2040. Let me also store it in the 53248 as a test here. Kind of move both the horizontal and the vertical. See if that'll change something. And heck, let's just throw in the colors too. Actually, we'll use that for the Y routine. So what I'm trying to show you is you can stick these inside the raster lines, and anything that you have going on here will change what's going on inside the raster routine there. So, because this is where the heart of the raster routine is going on right here. So let's see if I get any success with it. Yeah, I don't see anything going on. You can see it right there. It's like it's in the background or something. Let me try one more test here. I'm going to put this at 1 and try to move the raster line out of the way for now and see if it's behind it or something like that. And then I'm going to... I think it's behind the screen here. You see this little black thing right here? This is like... Maybe if I moved it up here, we might even see it. It's like doing some really strange things with the screen here. That should be the last test, guys. Sorry, I wanted to see if I can move it up here somewhere. Maybe it's not on the screen. Even though we are vertically moving it, strangely enough, it doesn't want to show up. I put that like maybe 70 or something. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Should be on the screen here somewhere, but I guess I'm going to move on to the other, the game progress. I wanted to show you the updates on all that. Now I probably bored the heck out of you with all this stuff now. Let me go back and save this too. Let's see which one I'm up to now. So I got raster 9. The other ones aren't that great, so I'm not going to show you those ones. But I'm going to save this, the raster 10. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Okay, so now we're going to go look for a basic program. I think it's under Game Design, one of these. Let's see. Game Design 1, 30 sectors, 28. I think it's this one right here. When it's 30 sectors, Game Design. It's GM2, that's it right there. So we're going to load in GM2. So I didn't really do much more with it. I don't think I actually did anything with it, but I've been working on that scrolling so much I just haven't had time to really mess with it. Yeah, the only thing it is, I added this thing at the top there. It's kind of drawing stuff on the screen, but I haven't really done a whole lot more with it. I mean, it's still the same guy moving. We still got the issue when that sprite moves like that, so. That's just because I need to move basic back. The memory's running into other areas of memory. So, I know it wasn't a whole lot in this video, but I wanted to show you guys that and some of the things that you can do and some of the things I'm working on. I don't really have a whole lot of ideas for this game yet, but I wanted to eventually make it so that when you move your man up the screen, it scrolls up. If you move him left and right, it scrolls left and right. So to make it more realistic, basically. And try to implement system calls inside of BASIC to do that. I did it one time in a semi-language on the Atari, and I had it working pretty good. But I didn't have the scrolling, but I was able to implement, some of the finer movement and stuff like that. So anyways, that's going to be about it for this video. If you're interested, definitely go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Sorry if this one was a little bit too technical and too boring, but I wanted to show you what I'm working on right now and not leave you guys hanging. So I'll keep working on the scrolling, and I'll get back to you and send me your questions. Have a good day.